how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to talk about all the books that I loved in 2020, with an exception of romances, because I've read so much in this genre it deserves a separate video. The first book I want to talk about is a booktube darling. A lot of people fell in love with it and with this author. It's The House in the Cerulean Sea by K.J. Charles. It is also the first book from this author that I've read, and I'm going to continue to read his work because I know that even though this one is an exception and is not how he writes his books usually, I really loved how he approaches fantasy. It's very wholesome, it's very uplifting, and I think we're so used to consume adult fantasy that is grimdark that this book kind of feels like it's not in the same category. Because of the way fantasy elements and writing style were so vibrant and so warm, it reminded me a lot of how middle-grade novels operate usually. But the protagonist of this novel is a middle-aged man who works for an agency that oversees magical children that could be dangerous. Because he is one of the most meticulous caseworkers, he is sent to one of the top secret orphanages to check if the headmaster of it is not ignoring his department's orders. And in this place he finds family, love, gets a taste of adventure, and rediscovers what he actually wants in life. It truly made me really happy. The found family trope is represented in it. The protagonist also falls for the headmaster, and they have a very sweet romance. It's also just very nice to see middle-aged protagonists that discover new magical worlds. After all, in the Western world, we do hold this idea that after a certain age, your life becomes drab and boring and there's nothing you can do with it. So this kind of novels are very much needed in my opinion. I cannot wait for the second book in the series, which I think is going to come out in 2021. The next book that surprised me a lot was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I'd read a couple of thrillers and crime novels in 2020, but even though I liked most of them, this one stood out because it's a young adult novel, and usually when I hear about young adult thrillers, they don't live up to the hype or are not that interesting, especially when it comes to characters and plot twists. The young adult category when it comes to crime is a bit safe always, which is understandable. It's written for an audience that is not me. This one had all the main elements up to par with adult crime novels. It wasn't as fucked up as some adult crime novels, but it was very, very good. And the protagonist was so lovable. I'm even going to read the second book in the series, and I usually don't when it comes to crime novels. This one is about a girl named Pip that lives in a British village. She has to do a summer assignment for school, which she can choose herself, and she decides to investigate a very infamous case that happened in their village. An upperclassman from her school disappeared and was presumed dead. She was dating this guy. The police investigated for the crime, but in the end couldn't take the pressure and took his life. Pip and the police don't really know if the guy actually killed his girlfriend, but Pip knew him a little and she doesn't believe that he could. She finds many other different suspects that the police didn't even want to consider. First of all, Pip is amazing. I love her dynamic with her partner in crime, the brother of the guy that was accused of murder. I love the plot twists. They were very unexpected, even though the cast of characters wasn't that big because it was set in a small village. Some parts were even pretty scary, which I don't think young adult novels achieve that a lot of times. I highly recommend it, especially if you're looking for a young adult crime story. I will definitely pick up the second book this year because it's about the same duo investigating a different case. The next book is one of those novels that you know you're going to love, but you postpone because you just know that one day you will need a win. Circe by Madeline Miller was one of those books for me. I absolutely loved it. I loved the Song of Achilles as well, so I anticipated a good book. Madeline Miller is an author that does very well with mythology retellings. She always finds a good angle for the characters, and her writing style is impeccable. You cannot find a flaw in it. I absolutely adored Circe as well. It is a story that is a bit slower than the Song of Achilles and that doesn't seem to have a single focus, at least at first. The book describes the life of Circe since she was little and into the adulthood, which is a bit difficult to pinpoint because she's immortal, so what's adulthood for her? She's the daughter of the old gods, and she doesn't feel very welcome in the pantheon, so she always felt a lot of empathy to humans and felt more connected to them rather than her siblings and her family. She does something that is unspeakable and makes her father, the god of sun, very angry, so he punishes her and sends her to an island to live her life alone. Circe pops up a lot in Greek mythology. She's a witch that turned man into pigs for disrespecting her, and she does welcome a lot of guests on her island. Her punishment takes a lot of space in this book, and at first I thought that I'm going to get bored very quickly, but it is a testament to the talents of Madeline Miller because I wasn't exhausted or bored by this story, and I actually really loved it. The next book that I loved was The Abyss Surrounds Us by Emily Skrutskie. I know that everyone else already read this book and I'm very late to the hype train, but I absolutely adored it. It's a hate-to-love young adult sci-fi about a girl that wants to train sea monsters. Her mother is behind the invention of these creatures, and the protagonist always wanted to be in the business as well. She was connected to one of the sea monsters, a huge turtle that was protecting one of the cruise ships, so she goes on a mission with her and they are attacked by pirates. The turtle doesn't survive the attack and the protagonist is taken on the pirate ship. At first, she doesn't really know why they decided to let her live, but the captain of the ship wants something from her. They do have a beast of their own, and they want her to train it. This book is very action-packed and fun. The protagonist is given into the care of one of the captain's right hands, and they fall in love with each other. It's very slow and angsty, but it's also one of those novels where the protagonist doesn't shy away from gray morality and jumps into a situation prepared to become someone else for the sake of survival. This book really surprised me. I expected the romance to be very cheesy, but it played on all my heartstrings. I absolutely love the couple, I love the plot, I love the world building, and I'm absolutely livid at myself that I didn't pick it up sooner. Because I didn't have to be such a stubborn ass when everyone was recommending this book to me, and it turned out to be such sapphic goodness. Another sapphic book that I really loved was Disobedience by Naomi Alderman. Now, me and Naomi Alderman have a bit of a history. I didn't love her other book, The Power. I thought that the message in it was a bit pedestrian and didn't really get why people love it so much. This one really did a number on me. First of all, I really loved the adaptation of it, and I did think that it was amazing. But after I actually read the book, I have to say that the book is better. It's more nuanced and heartbreaking, and I had an opportunity through it to have a deeper look into these characters. And it's about this woman that left a conservative Jewish village in England to move to New York, but then her father, who is a rabbi, dies and she has to come back home to say her goodbyes. She was avoiding going back for years, and this trip makes her revisit her past and this relationship that she had with her close girlfriend that was romantic but was forbidden. If you've seen the movie, the plot follows the book very closely, at least up until the end. The ending is a bit different, but I still think that it's worth a read because the characters are very different. I absolutely love this book. I'm going to read more Naomi Alderman, especially the books that don't have this many point of views as she had in The Power. This one handled the voice of the protagonist very well. The next book I think is going to be on a lot of people's favorites. It's The Blank Flamingo by Deonn Atta. I was very surprised that I loved it because it's a book written in verse and I cannot stand poetry. I listened to it though on audio, so I think that's what made a difference. It's a story about a British brown boy that discovers his sexuality and is trying to find a place for himself. It's a pretty simple story. We've had a lot of those, but his point of view is intersectional, has a bit more conflict, and also the way this story is constructed is a little bit different. I highly recommend this one. It's also a very fast read because it's written in verse. If you're like me and you don't dig novels written in verse, I recommend you to listen to the audiobook because the audiobook really took me on a journey and I absolutely loved the book. The next book is Felix Ever After by Kacen Callender. I am in love with the way Kacen Callender writes. It's very fun and vibrant, but also doesn't shy away from handling issues. The story is about Felix, who at the start believes that he is a transgender boy. He does a bit more of thinking about his gender in the book, and at the end settles on the label demi-boy, which is much more comfortable for him. But that's not the point of the story, I just wanted to mention it because I know that people are looking for rep. Felix struggles with his gender and the way his father sees him. He does have a couple of friends, some of which are really shitty to him because of his gender, but not all of them, especially not his best friend that he has very close relationship with. They both go to this art school and Felix hopes to be a great artist, but he struggles with his portfolio. Things just don't click the way they should, and someone also starts bullying him for being trans. He is rightfully angry and he wants to investigate it. He believes that it's one of the guys in their group, so he decides to catfish him and bring light to what he's done. He doesn't really know if it is him, but he strongly suspects it. Despite the grief topic, this novel essentially was so full of joy. It did make me cry a lot, but I absolutely loved the experience of reading this book. I also have to commend Kacen Callender for not being afraid to write an unlikable trans character. It's something a lot of marginalized creators struggle with because we have to produce the perfect image, otherwise we are ridiculed. Or sometimes one bad seed of a group can be taken at face value and considered to be a representative of the whole group. I definitely struggled with Felix at the start. He was a little shit, but eventually I had fallen in love with him. And that's what a good novel does, in my opinion. This year I also finally checked out Rory Power's work. I started with her second novel, Burn Our Bodies Down, and it was absolutely catered to my tastes. It is definitely very odd speculative fiction, but it works in my opinion. It does require a suspense of disbelief at certain moments, but I didn't find it difficult with the way Rory Powers writes. I also think that the plot was very interesting and cool, and I would love to check out more of her work. I hope she's going to come out with something in 2021, but I have not heard any news so far. This book is about a girl that lives with a very secretive mother. She doesn't really know if she even has other relatives, and one day she finds an old photograph with a telephone number, so she calls it, and it turns out that the person on the other side of the wire is her grandmother. She runs away from her home and comes back to the town where her mother was born, and she has to deal with the big dark family secret that no one expected when they went into this book. I read this book largely in one go before I went to sleep. Well, to be honest, I had very little sleep because of it. I think I started reading at about 7 p.m. and stopped at about 6 a.m. It was very, very engaging. I highly recommend it if you love weird and if you had luck with other work by Rory Power. The next book is The Monster of Elendhaven by Jennifer Giesbrecht. It's a novella actually about these two monsters. One of them is a warlock and one of them is straight up a monster that want to trigger an apocalypse in this small industrial town. They also fall for each other, which is a very interesting dynamic, and have a lot of secrets. If you followed me for a while, you know that I love books written from the point of view of villains, of serial killers and monsters, especially because it gives such a different tone to the story, and I just usually find them very fascinating. This reminded me a lot of Hannibal, especially Hannibal and Will's relationship, or the way the fandom sees it after season 3. I highly recommend it if you love the show, and if you never heard about the show, please watch it. But also, if you're not into it, just read this book because it's also really, really good. I honestly mourned the moment when it ended because I wanted to see more, even though it's a perfectly structured and perfectly paced novella. The last book that is not a romance that I absolutely loved this year was Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. It's about this teenage girl that loses her mother in a very odd circumstances and goes to college or pre-college program where her mother was also a student, and accidentally becomes a witness of a magical secret society in action. This book was such a pleasant surprise because while it had a lot of very familiar and popular tropes, it managed to turn them on their heads. The world building is very cool, the magical system is based on the Arthurian mythology, and there are some other types of magic as well. The protagonist is so consistent and so well developed, and in many cases, especially in young adult urban fantasy, the protagonists are just not as strong. Not in a sense that they are physically strong, but in a sense that they are so thought out and so well put on the page. It's very clear that Tracy Deonn knows her protagonist. She knows what to do with her. The romance was very sweet in it, and I cannot believe that I'm saying it because I'm never satisfied with young adult romances in fantasy fiction. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a fun, adventurous book. So these are all the books that I loved in 2020. I had a really good reading year, even though I struggled with certain genres, especially fantasy, but we're going to work on that in 2021. Very soon I'm going to film and upload my favorite romances of 2020, so if you're interested and not subscribed to this channel, subscribe and click the bell button so you won't miss it. In the comments down below, tell me which books you really enjoyed in 2020, and if you just want to tell me that you've watched this video till the end, leave a sparkling heart emoji in the comment section. Thank you for watching this video, I hope you liked it, and I'll see you soon with another one, but until then,